Hello, I'm Elliot Lindemood, the host of Political Trendy Radio. You might know me from that show or from any shows I've guested on. Today we're going to do something different. Today I'm going to do a solo broadcast. Now you may wonder why I'm doing this in Google Hangout. The reason is I don't really know how to do anything else. I'm blind and I don't really know how to take video, take videos or anything like that. Um, you may also be wondering, why can't you see me? Well, I could go on some philosophical conversation about how the metaphorical, me being blind, this is how I see the world thing. The truth is, I just don't really like my camera on. I mean, um, my screen's folded, so why not just have it off? I don't really care. If you want to see me, you can see me. Uh, you can email me at ellindemood@gmail.com, facebook.com/politicaltrendy, facebook.com/fusgrindcore, at Twitter at ptradio666. Now that takes care of the promotional shite. So I figured I'll get to the meat of the uh, thing. And by the way, if I sound really awkward, it's because I'm not used to talking this long without people answering me. So I guess I'll get to the meat of the sandwich, which would be my love of motorsport. I don't really know how it began because it began when I was about one. It's always been there. It's been there for years. I mean, my earliest memories are of races. I can still remember the old races, and the old races we had taped that I watched 1,000 times. Laguna Seca '97 kart race, the Toyota Grand Prix Monterey. Laguna Seca '98, NASCAR, the Prime Star 500 in 1998. We had the 1998 Winter Nationals. All those races. I can remember watching them thousands of times. I mean, it must have been thousands. Uh, I was always attracted to every form of racing. From cars to motorcycles to sports cars and drag racing. And I remember we didn't have speed vision back then. So what I did was, I mean, I just scour. We had about 70 something channels, and I'd scour them looking for races old and new. And one of my, I mean, I remember watching TNN every Sunday. Because Sunday was race day, and you never knew what you were going to get. It could be drag racing, it could be IRL, it could be fucking mud bogging, it could be swamp buggy, local races, ASA, Bush North. You never know what you were going to get. Sports car, less. That was more of a speed vision thing, but I used to love the American Le Mans series and whatever the precursor to Grand Am when they still had LMP style cars. Of course, that was way back then. When I got Speed Vision just before it changed the Speed Channel. So I remember a couple. I mean, I remember going to my grandmother's house, and she had Speed Vision. That was awesome because I could see things like Oshkosh flying, plane racing and boat racing and Formula One and what else? Sports car and old races. I've always had a love of the classic races. I've always had a love of old. You know, I remember watching, Car and Track when we first got Speed Channel, and it was everything from Richard Petty, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons to old IndyCar stars, Foyt, Andretti. That's Mario, not Michael, Marco, Jeff, or John. Lloyd Ruby, Roger McCluskey, uh, Johnny Rutherford, and also the sprint car guys, Jan Opperman, and the drag racing guys, Gene Snow, Dale Poldy, of course Don Garlitz, but that's kind of obvious. Muldowney, Connie Coletta. So I've always had a great appreciation for older races as well as the modern day races that I watch a lot. My first race was the that I attended live was the 1998 California 500. It was a NASCAR Winston Cup race. Mark Martin won, and I remember the sound just you know going into I wasn't four yet because I'm born in May, so I was three. I remember that quite well. Later that year, we went to the 1998 kart race. It was called the Marlboro 500, but on TV it was called the 500. Which I always thought was weird. That I always wondered if that was because anti-cigarette sponsorship or because of sponsor conflicts. Because you could say Winston Cup, but you couldn't say Marlboro. But it's probably more convoluted than that. I'm an idiot. So and I remember my favorite driver at the time, Jimmy Vasser, won. And I remember that those and one of the things I learned was watching it on TV, you don't get a feeling for how loud it is. And that was one of the things I learned when I was 3 years old, just how utterly loud it was, and just that was amazing. Of course, I didn't know what was going on during those races because this is years before we thought about bringing scanners to the track, so I could hear a little bit of what the PA said, but other than that, I was pretty much just lost myself in the sound of the cars, which was all which was fun. Uh, 1999 Fontana, of course, the Marlboro 500. Greg Moore died, and that was the first ever fatal crash I was present at. Which makes you think when you're five. I talk about some of the wrecks I was at. I was at Vegas when Weldon. I was at Laguna Seca. Well, we had left by then because we thought the Superbike race was just going to be another walkover for Josh Hayes, and we had to do shit. And two riders were killed there. But people go, well, how can you, and of course I've read and seen more, especially in the book Against Death and Time by Brock Yates, which is a great book you should all check out. And somebody's, how could you keep watching racing when you see so much, death? And the answer is, it's quite complex because on one hand, it gets to you. But on the other hand, racing has been in my blood. I mean, my father was a huge fan of racing. His father was a massive AJ Foyt fan when Foyt was in his prime. And for someone who has very little family, not loyal, but very little family ties or whatever. For someone who's always been a bit of an independent and lone wolf, that's a bit surprising. But it's been my life for years. And plus, you have to remember that all these drivers knew what they were getting into. You don't get into a car without understanding the risks. You don't get into a not just a car, but a high speed machine going 100 to 700 miles an hour. Land speed record cars and such. You don't do that without going. This could be painful, and this could end very abruptly. Um, if you do, you don't know. You probably shouldn't be out there on the track. Personally, yeah, that's my opinion. Um, but yeah, racing. It's regardless of what happens, it's been who I am. It's always been. It was there before loud music. I actually got into metal. Funny story. And I know I'm not going in chronological order here, but funny story. I actually got into metal, or some watered down form of it because of NASCAR. NASCAR they'd released Full Throttle, which was a NASCAR and NBC compilation, And who was on it? I was about 7, and I got it because NASCAR on NBC. So it was Metallica was the first song with "Fuel for Fire," which was an outtake of our early version of the song "Fuel." Sammy Hagar, Matchbox 20, Smash Mouth, a bunch of crappy bands, Vertigo Horizon, a bunch of just garbage. But of course, I didn't know it was garbage at the time. I thought it was great. 2003, I got Crank It Up, which was the Fox NASCAR and Fox soundtrack, and that featured um, again a bunch of crap bands, Buck Cherry, uh, fucking Slipknot. I thought it was the heaviest thing ever back then. I was 7 or 9 or no 8 or 9. I had to be 8 or 9. Um, Fucking Slayer was on there with Born to Be Wild. That was Groove Slayer, of course. That was just after God Hates Us All. So that was Groove Slayer. But still, it was Slayer. And I was as a 9-year old, I was like, wow, this is awesome. There's other more obscure bands, Darwin's Waiting Room. Mostly crap. But I remember Metallica and Slayer quite well from those days, and that got me into more obscure, or not obscure, but heavier music, which is 7 or 8, 9-year old. Of course, your parents don't want you listening to that evil devil music, but somehow I managed. Um, Getting back to racing, well, like I said, when we got Speed Channel, Speed Vision, as it was called, let's say late 2001, my whole outlook changed. I got to see 500cc Grand Prix racing. I got to see planes, boats, much more boats, drag boats, uh, a lot of stuff that I'd only read about, or not read but heard about. I got to see old NASCAR races. I got to see Cart had just moved to Speed Channel by then, so there's a lot of you know really cool. Sorry, lost my place for a second. Wind Tunnel will start in a couple of years. One of the biggest things for me was obviously what appealed to me back then was, when I was young, was the sound. I mean, you go to a football or baseball game, or any game, all you're gonna hear is the crowd cheering and maybe a hit of the ball or something. But racing, you hear a lot more, obviously. So that really appealed to me. Of course, when I got the internet, I got into, now I watch racing from all over the world. I watch Motors TV on a daily basis, whatever's on, just anything. Was never into things like freestyle or drifting or anything because it wasn't racing. It was just a contest. Monster trucks I'm into for the racing, but not the freestyle. Mostly because why would you tear up a $600,000 truck? It's just something's wrong there. I remember when I went to my first drag race too. If I thought NASCAR was loud, boy, I'd never. Everyone needs to go to an NHRA drag race. Find one in your area, or if you're overseas and you're going to America, or if you have some sort of Top Fuel series in your country, go there. Go there. You won't be the same ever again. The noise is just so awesome. Jet cars. I watched it all, and I still watch it all if I can find it. Snowmobile racing, motocross, supercross, fucking off road. Um, yeah, anything is basically my point. Midgets, sprints. They don't really have that on TV anymore, sadly, which is a damn shame, really. Trans Am is always one of my favorite series for some reason. I love Trans Am. Brian Simo, Paul Gentilozzi, Tommy Archer, uh, Boris Said. Later he had Pruitt, Scott. I remember when he was racing IndyCar. Never cared. The IRL was. I watched it, but I was more of a Champ Car fan, which actually leads me on to fast forwarding a bit. In 2008, IndyCar and Champ Car merged, or IRL, excuse me, and Champ Car merged. So, with my favorite series gone, of course I still watch the IRL because that's where a lot of my favorite drivers were: Justin Wilson, Will Power, and the like. Oriol Servia, later Tagliani, Mario Dominguez. Anyway, so and of course, I liked F1 and things like that. But anyway, so I faintly remember because I mean, I used to watch things like American Le Mans series or Grand Am on TV, but just I'd watch it whenever nothing was, whenever I was, bored or whatever, and I never knew when it was on. Uh, but I faintly remember going in. This must have been late '07. It must have been the Mid Ohio race, and turning on my Sirius boombox and catching the last 15 minutes of an American Le Mans Series race on the radio. Don't remember anything about it except for I thought the commentator was really good. Um, so I decided to re-look it up, and I discovered something called Radio Le Mans. And I discovered, man, that was a path of discovery because of course, I first started watching ALMS. I think my first race was the Generac 500 in 2008 at Road America, which was a 4-hour race. Of course, this was back when ALMS had the Audis, the factory Audis, and they mirrored the LMS rules, or the Le Mans rules. They had P1, P2, GT1, which exclusively featured Corvettes, and I think 2 Corvettes, and I think 1 Aston, if we were lucky, and GT2, which was coming into its stride, I think, and GT1 was dead, but the vets were still there. I always thought that was weird that the vets lasted in GT1 as long as they did. Um, this is when Pat Long was racing the Penske Porsche, really doing a pretty bad job, and I really like Pat Long, so that kind of sucked. But anyway, so I got into Radio Law, and I started looking. Oh, what's this LMS? I don't know what LMS is, and I listened to the 6 hours of Nürburgring, or sorry, the 1,000 Ks of Nürburgring, and I started getting into this show called Midweek Motorsport, which is opened my eyes. And I say that figuratively, of course, because I'm blind, but damn. So many series they mentioned, FR 3.5, WTCC, BTCC, DTM, and I knew none of it. I mean, I knew I'd watch some of it because Speed would air it after the NASCAR season was over. Highlighted package, as they call it, bastardized package. But I didn't know anything about it. V8 Supercars I kind of seen. I remember Marcus Ambrose from V8 Supercars, but I remember looking things up like left and right and left and right and left and right, left and right. So that's how I got into more international forms of motorsport. I remember we went to the WTCC at Sonoma in 2012, 2013 because I started watching WTCC from Midweek Motorsport. Yes, on YouTube. Sue me, people. It's the only way you can get it in America, okay? unless you want to just watch highlight coverage, the only way you can get things like that in America are through YouTube. So if you have a problem with it, sorry. Maybe you should talk to I don't know, Mav TV, and ask them to put the BTCC up in full in WTCC. So until then, sorry. That's an inside thing because Midweek Motorsport's a bit strange about posting illegal links, as they call it, and I'm just like, look. In places like America, quote unquote illegal streams are the only places you can watch shit like this, people. So anyway, um, yeah. So I got into things like WTCC and things like, and then when they said they were going to Sonoma, I was like, oh, we have to go. I would love to see. I remember going to my first WEC race in Coda last year. I mean, of course, I'm a fan of the WEC because Radio Le Mans covers it, and a huge fan of Radio Le Mans. John Hindhaugh, in my opinion, is the best commentator in this day and age. Him and Martin Haven and of course the rest of the Radio Le Mans crew. And I remember going there. Just the excitement was just amazing because I'd seen these people race, and on television, on radio, and just going there was just a whole nother experience. But so as you can see here, I don't mean to be non chronological here. Like I said, this is just I'm not good at planning things. As you can see here, racing's been in my blood for you know all my life. It's um, racing's like I said before music, before politics. When other kids were watching Barney the dinosaur, I was watching Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vassar and the Target Chip Ganassi team, and you um, when other kids were watching Power Rangers, I was watching Dale Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett and fucking who else? And also, I mean, I still love watching old races. I love watching old IMSA races, sports cars, touring car bikes. I love watching old races. Old F1. Uh, I'm a great student of history in terms, for racing. I've always loved learning about how cars developed, what the speeds were back then, what the safety was back then. Don't get me started on safety and things like that because we'll be here for hours. Um, so I think I'll wind it up here, and I'll do more of these if they're popular and if I get support. I think I'll just wind it up here by saying, racing is the number one thing that I'm passionate about. I mean, it's it's been me for years. I could go on about all the races I've gone, and maybe I will, uh, do future things about specific races I remember going to, or specific races I even remember, watching, or books. It all depends on if I see a lot of interest in this stuff. Not that I do it just because of what fans say, but just um, it would be nice to know that there's a fellow um, race fans here. And if any fellow race fans would like to join me in co-hosting my radio show, Political Trendy Radio, that would be cool because um, I would like to get more racing onto the show. I know it's called Political Trendy. It's a song, people. Okay, we're not just talking about politics. It's named after a punk song. But I'd like to get more racing on that show. But I don't know any racing fans. I don't know any fans of racing. I mean, I'm not just going to say as passionate as I am. I don't really know any fans, period. So it would be nice to see if there are any fans who would like to maybe guest star on my show, any people into the racing business, something. Um, Later on, I'll tell you about some of my favorite current day drivers, some of my favorite past drivers, whatever. I don't know. Anything goes here. So this has been Elliot Lindenwood from Political Trendy Radio saying, give racing a chance. Love racing. I don't give a shit. Anyway, that's me. Sorry. This is giving me a hard time here. Hey, it's live. I don't give a shit. um, Next one will be about music, I believe, because you know how much I love music. Um, yeah, next one will be about music. How I got into punk and metal, that sort of thing. I think that would be interesting. But sorry about that, people. I couldn't find the stop broadcast button. Hey, I'm doing this without a mouse and with a still a keyboard. So you have to at least I'm trying here. That's the thing that I may be an idiot, but I'm trying. Anyway, like I said before, this is Elliot Linwood from Political Trendy Radio. You can email me at ellinthemood@gmail.com. The other links are on my YouTube channel. I don't really feel like saying them right now. Goodbye, and remember, racing is better than baseball.